There is a fire inside you that the world tried to smother before you ever knew it existed. From the moment you arrived in this world, society began writing your story for you, limiting your vision, dulling your dreams, shrinking your destiny down to something manageable, something safe, something average. But you were never meant to be safe. You were never meant to be small. You were not born to be average. Average is the slow death of greatness. It is the quiet killer of potential. It is the lie that tells you to be grateful for scraps when you were meant to build empires. Look around you. The world bows to those who dared to believe in the impossible, to the Edisons who lit the darkness when the world called him mad, to the Disneys who sketched a mouse and saw a kingdom, to the Lincolns who rose from the dirt to unite a divided nation, to the Fords who saw machines move like horses when all others mocked the vision. They were not born to be average, and neither were you. But here's the truth. Greatness doesn't just show up at your door. It must be demanded, fought for, bled for. You must earn your future in the furnace of discomfort, forged in the fire of self-discipline, shaped by the chisel of relentless effort. And that begins with your mind. Because before you build anything in this world, you must build yourself. Everything begins with belief. Not just the kind you say, but the kind you embody. The kind of belief that doesn't waver when life punches you in the mouth. The kind of belief that stands tall when the crowd laughs, that walks forward when the path disappears beneath your feet. Napoleon Hill said, "Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve." And most people get excited at the sound of that, but they miss the cost. They want the result without the reckoning. They want the success without the sweat. They want the vision without the discipline. But belief isn't magic. Belief is a weapon. And like any weapon, it must be sharpened. You sharpen it every morning when you rise before the sun. You sharpen it every time you say no to your excuses. You sharpen it with every book you read, every hard truth you face, every weakness you confront, because belief isn't passive. Belief is war. And you are at war with doubt, with fear, with the version of you that's comfortable being average. Let me make this clear. You will not rise to your dreams. You will fall to your level of discipline. And that's why most people never make it. Because average feels easy, comfortable, familiar. But that's the trap. That's the enemy. That's the death of your potential dressed up like peace. You were not born to blend in. You were born to build, to create, to break chains, to make history. But the only way you get there is by learning to live with discomfort and mastering the art of showing up when motivation leaves the room. Discipline is the gatekeeper of destiny. It's the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. It doesn't ask how you feel. It asks what you're willing to endure. You think Ford felt like showing up every day to invent the Model T while critics called him a fool? You think Carnegie felt like grinding through his failures, staring down steel empires he hadn't yet built? You think Hill himself didn't question the dream when everyone told him to give it up? But they kept moving. They kept building. They kept believing, because clarity is power and purpose is fire. When you know why you're here, how becomes irrelevant. This is what most people miss. They wander through life reacting instead of creating, surviving instead of designing, hoping something changes instead of becoming the change. But you are not most people. You are the one who writes your own code. You are the one who sees beyond what is into what can be. You are the one who chooses vision over victimhood. And that vision, your vision, must become the obsession that consumes you. Because without vision, we perish. Without purpose, we drift. But with it, even the darkest days have meaning. Even the greatest pain becomes fuel. Even failure becomes feedback. You think the universe hands out success like candy. Number, it hands out tests. And you pass those tests not by talent, but by tenacity. By waking up every day and saying, I am not done, I am not average, I am not settling. The truth is, you're not waiting on success. Success is waiting on you to show up differently, to speak differently, to think differently, waiting on you to stop asking for permission and start walking in power. Most people look at the mountain and shrink, but the rare few, the uncommon, become the mountain. They rise above circumstance, above fear, above the noise of doubt that says, you can't. Because someone has to rise, someone has to break the cycle, someone has to prove that greatness isn't reserved for the chosen few. It's earned by the committed few. You weren't born to be average. You were born to be legendary. And that journey begins right now. You see, every day you wake up, you're faced with a decision. Do I rise or do I retreat? Do I act or do I excuse? Do I become the person I was designed to be? Or do I remain a prisoner of who I've always been? That decision isn't made once. It's made every single morning your feet touch the floor. Because life doesn't reward your potential. It rewards your execution. It doesn't pay you for what you know. It pays you for what you do. You can study all the books, quote every millionaire, write your goals in perfect calligraphy and paste them across your vision board. But if you don't act, if you don't move, if you don't decide with finality, you will still be average. Average in results, average in discipline, average in impact. And deep down, you know that will never satisfy your soul. Because the voice inside you, the one that whispers late at night telling you you're meant for more, that voice never lies. It knows your truth. It knows what you buried to fit in. It knows what you're capable of, even when you try to forget. That voice, that's your greatness calling. And every time you ignore it, you betray your destiny. Let's talk about pain for a second. Pain is not your enemy. It's your compass. Pain reveals where you need to grow. Pain exposes what must be healed. Pain shows you what matters. The greats didn't avoid pain. They harnessed it. Lincoln used loss and ridicule to forge resilience. Oprah used rejection and poverty to shape unbreakable resolve. Hill himself was told he would fail, that his dream was too big, too bold, too unrealistic, but they didn't listen. They decided, and that's what separates the elite from the average, the power to decide, not to wish, not to want, not to wait, but to decide with the force of conviction that says, this is who I am now, this is what I stand for, this is the life I will build, no matter what it costs me. Because average waits for the perfect moment. Greatness creates the moment. You've got one shot at this life, one. And while others are scrolling and complaining, binging and blaming, you have the chance to do something rare, to wake up, to rise out of the noise, to build a mind so strong no circumstance can shake it, to build a character so fierce no failure can break it, to build a purpose so clear even storms bow in its presence. You are not just here to survive. You are here to shift the atmosphere. You are not here to blend into the crowd. You are here to build what doesn't exist yet. You are here to leave a mark, a legacy, a story so powerful that generations whisper your name. But let's be real, none of that happens by accident. It happens by vision, by action, by mastery. You must master your thoughts because your thoughts become your life. Every doubt you entertain becomes a delay. Every fear you coddle becomes a ceiling. Every excuse you accept becomes a chain. You must break those chains violently, intentionally, daily. Because mediocrity is always recruiting, always whispering, take it easy today. Sleep a little longer. Start next week. But excellence is always available to those who are willing to be ruthless with themselves. You must be ruthless about your growth, ruthless about your routine, ruthless about cutting off every voice that feeds weakness, fear, and indecision. The world doesn't need another average person just getting by. It needs you, fully awake, fully alive, and on fire with purpose. That kind of purpose doesn't show up with a smile. It shows up with a sword. It demands sacrifice. It demands focus. It demands that you stop entertaining every distraction dressed up as pleasure and begin investing in power. Power that comes from choosing structure over chaos, discipline over ease, and mission over mood. Because let me tell you, you will not always feel motivated, but you can always choose to be devoted. Devotion gets you to the gym when the bed says stay. Devotion keeps you grinding when the money hasn't come yet. Devotion speaks belief when the world shouts doubt. It's the reason why some break through and others fade away. It's what turns intention into impact. You weren't born to be average. You were born to master yourself, to sharpen your mind like a blade, to walk into rooms and shift the energy, to carry the weight of your calling like a crown, not a burden. Because when you carry purpose, real purpose, you no longer chase the applause. You chase the assignment. You stop asking, what will they think of me? And start declaring, what will I build? What will I become? What will I leave behind? The truth is, your legacy is not built in moments of comfort. It's built in the unseen hours, when no one's clapping, when the results are slow, when everything in you says quit, but something deeper says fight. You don't become legendary by waiting for motivation. You become legendary by waking up each day and choosing to become dangerous. Dangerous to limitation, dangerous to mediocrity, dangerous to the patterns that once held you hostage, because somewhere in you is a version of you the world has never met. And that version doesn't settle. That version doesn't need validation to move forward. That version doesn't back down when things get hard. It locks in. But here's the catch. That version of you only comes alive through fire. The fire of failure, the fire of setbacks, the fire of being underestimated, overlooked, and rejected again and again. And when life puts you in the fire, you've got two choices. You can burn down, or you can forge something unbreakable. This is the crucible of champions. Edison failed over 10,000 times. Disney was told he had no imagination. Ford was called a fool for believing the masses would drive machines instead of ride horses. They were mocked, dismissed, and laughed at until they weren't. Why? Because they refused to fold. They refused to believe the narrative the world offered. They refused to lower their standards to fit into systems built for mediocrity. And so must you. You were not born to follow the script. You were born to write your own, not with ink, not with borrowed words, but with blood, with sweat, with relentless commitment to a future that only you can see. That's the difference between dreamers and doers. Dreamers wish, doers become. You don't get to wish your way into a higher life. You have to fight your way into it. And that fight begins with how you speak to yourself when no one is watching. You've got to speak life into your mind. You've got to speak fire into your spirit. You've got to speak truth to your fear until your fear backs down and your faith steps forward. There's no victory in self-pity. There's no greatness in waiting for someone to choose you. There is only now and the choices you make within it. So choose power, choose movement, choose faith when doubt makes the most noise. Because the most dangerous lie ever told is the one that says you're not enough. Let me tell you something. You are enough, not because the world says so, but because you were built with purpose woven into your DNA. You were created with seeds of excellence just waiting to be cultivated. You are walking potential, but only if you activate it. Your life doesn't get better by chance. It gets better by change. The moment you stop waiting for permission is the moment you become unstoppable. You weren't born to be average. You were born to be a force, a light in the dark, a disruptor of patterns, and a breaker of generational chains. You were born to build what others are too afraid to start. And if you ever forget that, just remember, the same spirit that burned in Carnegie, in Mandela, in every world changer before you, burns in you. So burn with it. Let the fire inside you be greater than the storm outside you. Let your discipline become your defense. Let your vision become your vengeance. Because when the world tried to keep you small, you rose. When the odds were stacked, you pushed harder. When no one believed, you became your own believer. That's what greatness is. It's not a moment. It's not a feeling. It's a decision you make every single day to never live another second of your life as average. So rise, stand tall, look in the mirror and remind yourself, I was not born to be average. I was born to be exceptional, and I refuse to waste that birthright. So now what? Now you decide, not tomorrow, not when it's convenient, not when the timing is perfect or the stars align or someone gives you the green light. Now you decide who you will become. You decide what you will stand for. You decide that the old version of you, The hesitant you, the doubtful you, the average you dies today. Because the person you're becoming, that person doesn't beg for opportunity. They create it. That person doesn't get crushed by failure. They build from it. They don't wait for signs. They become the signal. So many people will live their entire lives asleep, sleepwalking through routines they didn't choose, trapped in beliefs they didn't question, settling for results they don't even like. But not you. You've felt it in your bones. You've heard it in your soul. You've seen flashes of what's possible in the quietest moments of honesty with yourself, and now it's time to step into it. Not cautiously, not timidly, but boldly, like someone who knows they are the answer to their own prayers. You want to change your life? Change your identity. Rewire your standards. Move like someone with a calling, not just a goal. Live like you're on assignment, not just a schedule. Because the truth is, this world isn't moved by your opinions. It's moved by your example. And every second you rise above the noise, every time you silence the inner critic, every morning you conquer your laziness, every day you choose discipline over doubt, you become the example someone else needed. You become proof that it's possible. That pain can be turned into power. That purpose can be louder than pressure. That you can rise no matter how far you've fallen. You weren't born to settle. You weren't born to follow. You weren't born to fade into history. You were born to make it. So make it. Make the decision. Make the move. Make the shift. Average is always available, but so is greatness. And today, you choose greatness. No more hiding, no more shrinking, no more playing small to make others comfortable. The lion is awake, the fire is lit, and the world will never be the same again. Because you were not born to be average. You were born to rise. You were born to lead. You were born to dominate. And starting now, you will.